everyone. This is the Next Best Series podcast. I'm joined by one of the stars of Loki, Sophia Di Martino. Sophia, thank you so much for joining.
Of course. Hi. Nice to see you.
Well, big fan the first season. It was fantastic, and I think especially, your chemistry with Tom Hiddleston and the whole journey of Loki and Sylvie. So going into season two, and especially with how the season one finale happened, how are you in the mindset of thinking to explore that evolution of the relationship, especially how it's completely flipped over in this season?
Yeah, well, in series two, Sylvie is in a very different place. And that was interesting to explore, playing the same character, but in a completely different world in a way. It doesn't happen very often. So quite a gift. And I guess if series one was, Loki and Sylvie getting to know each other, figuring out what makes them similar and what makes them different and what annoys them about each other and what they like about each other, if anything. Series two is more like it's more about maybe how it feels to bump into your ex. And that was the starting point, like how much is unsaid, how much history they have between them, how fraught that moment where they bump into each other, well, where they see each other for the first time in McDonald's, how much energy is like sparking between them at that and that was the moment that sort of started the whole series. Yeah, so that's what we used.
Especially, lots of new season, new character arcs, new actors joining the show. I would be remiss if I didn't bring up Ke Huy Quan, who from like every interview, every like interaction you see him doing, he seems like one of the most lovely humans on earth. So I would just want to know what it was like working with him, him joining the cast and how that dynamic played out.
Yeah, it's exactly as you would expect. Key is just always chipper and so positive, and he's like buzzing. He's just so happy to be there. He's so in love with his job, and it's quite infectious to be around. So it was really lovely to work with him and hang out.
And one of the best aspects of Loki, I think, a lot of these Marvel projects or even like big budget projects, green screens are apparent. A lot of people feel it doesn't really, keep them engaged or a tactile nature to what they're watching. But for Loki, there's all these very extravagant sets, whether it's the TVA or in the season when they go to the World's Fair in Chicago. So I'm wondering how, as a performer, I'm sure, of course, you work with green screen visual effects, but having that actual tangibility of real built sets helps immerse you as a performer.
Yeah, I mean, Loki has a lot more real life sets than a lot of these shows do. And they really are incredible. They make you feel like you're there. That fair was huge. There were like streets built, and you could really get lost, in that whole world. You forget that you're in a studio. It's so realistic. A lot of our sets have ceilings as well, which is quite rare. Usually sets sort of stop at screen height because you don't need to see above that. Even if you don't see it very often, there's always a ceiling, and especially in the TVA, it helps make you feel sort of claustrophobic and contained. So it really helps with just enjoying being in that place, and you forget that it's not real.
With a lot of television shows, a lot of actors feel happy just to get the season renewal. I'm just happy to come back for another season. Ultimately, that it's a very fickle industry, and a lot of showrunners come in, come out, a lot of different creatives come in for television. With season two, Kate Herron is as part of it, and Michael Waldron. Instead, you have Eric Martin and Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead. So what were the feelings, coming in, having, because at the end of the day, you're like, I'm the performer. I have to come in, I have to show up, I got to say my lines. But how did a sense of, confidence come in that when you're starting to see how it plays out, you're like, okay, we're still in good hands. Everything is going to be fine.
Yeah, I think it really did feel like, Kate and Michael sort of set this beast up, and then Eric and Justin and Aaron just sort of run with it, and it's just a continuation of and more brains and more creativity that just add to it as you go along. So it just makes it better and better. The more people that get involved and the more creatives, the better, I think.
And okay, I'm gonna jump around because one moment that stood out to me, when in episode 5, towards the end, you go to a record store and there's the needle drop, Velvet Underground, Oh Sweet Nothings. Because I was wondering, I was like, okay, what are they gonna play? And then as soon as the guitar riff happens, I'm like, all right, great needle drop. So, going in as a performer, was it like nothing was playing at all? Did they let you know ahead of time that was the song they picked? So you're like, okay, I got a vibe of it. Was that just put in after?
So we didn't know what song it was going to be. Justin and Aaron were like saying maybe it would be Perfect Day, maybe it would be something
Oh,
else. I was like, no, it can't be that. It has to, like, everyone had their real, like, specific song that they wanted it to be. When we actually filmed it, I wanted to listen to Purple Rain by Prince because I think it's just one of
all
the best
timer. Yeah.
songs ever written. And I find it unbelievably sad. Um, so that was my choice, but I made like a whole playlist for that moment. And I was sending Justin and Aaron like Spotify links, like maybe it could be this. Can you try this in the edit? Maybe it could be this. And yeah, they settled on the Velvet Underground song, and it worked perfectly.
Okay, I gotta know this what is in this playlist besides Purple Rain. What else were you cooking up there?
It's been a while, so I can't remember. I think I actually shared it on Instagram like a year ago. It's out there
Okay.
somewhere. It's called Sylvie's Place.
Everyone listening is gonna go download it. They're like, okay, we gotta know.
Yeah,
And just
full playlist. There's a bit of Stevie Nicks on there. There's some Patti Smith.
oh,
Um, I think there's some like Riot Girl, some Bikini Kill or something.
okay, perfect. Perfect. Also with the first season, is so you mentioned earlier the dynamics difference. It really sets up the stage. There's a lot of stunts and combat that Sylvie partakes in. It's not as much in season 2, but there's, a recontextualization of like the finale. So practically, were you just reshooting like these whole fight
Oh
sequences
no,
between you and
Frozen.
Tom, or? So yeah, what was it like recontextualizing the fight sequence, especially at the end of the first
Yeah.
season finale?
Yeah, so that was fun. It was interesting to go back. You don't often get to go back to like buy a whole episode, a whole series, and reshoot something. So it was nice to be able to do that. It helped, to be in the same costume as series one and have the wig on that looked like my own hair from 2 years ago. Um, and yeah, it was interesting to try and get back into the mindset of Sylvie series one, where she's, you know, before she's killed He Who Remains, and revisit that. But then filming it was completely different because we had to freeze a lot because Loki was time slipping. So it wasn't like a continuous flow of the scene. We just had to keep stopping and freezing. And then I would like run off set and then they'd carry on filming because I had to like freeze. So there were a lot of special effects, things that needed to be done. So it was a different experience to the first time round. Kind of a bit of a head trip.
And before we head off, it's impossible to ask, is there going to be a Loki season 3? Marvel's tight-lipped. I'm not even going to bother. So I'm just curious from your perspective, especially with how Sylvie's journey ends in the season. It feels that this possibly could be the end. Are you personally satisfied with Sylvie's journey? And if there weren't any more to be made, you think, I am satisfied, this was done well. I can go to bed knowing that the story was told.
I feel like she's still got some stuff left to say.
Okay.
I mean, I've really enjoyed my time on it, and yeah, I can go to bed a happy lady. But I feel like if there is something to fight for, Sylvie would want to be there to fight for it.
All right. We'll leave it at that, people.
Giovanni, who knows?
Yeah, I know. The Marvel machine is never going to let us tell anything. It's all good. Who knows? Sophia, thank you so much. This was a pleasure. And real quick, is there anything else you're working on or anything coming up on the pipeline?
couple of things. Peacock, the series that I did, and the Radleys, a movie. Yeah, and some other stuff that will be coming soon.
All right. Well, everyone keep an eye out. Thank you so much. This was a pleasure. And Loki season 2 is out now. You go check it. See what you're missing, people.
Thank you.